Infinitesimals, fields of statics and hydrostatics, laws of the lever, spiral pump, improved catapults, ray cannons based on focused sunbeams, and land-based cranes to lift or sink ships. These were all invented by the same great man. And these were not all. Archimedes, one of the finest scientists and mathematicians of the classical age, arose from the scientific culture of ancient Greece. Archimedes developed into one of the greatest minds our world has known. He was the Einstein of his time, or perhaps we should say that Einstein was the Archimedes of his time. He was a philosopher, astronomer, physicist, mathematician, engineer, inventor, and weapons designer. He was so engrossed with his work that he sometimes forgets to eat or even take a bath, according to some books about him. As we'll see, he was a man who was both of his time and far ahead of his time. Not much is known about his life, but Archimedes is believed to be born in approximately 287 BC in the Greek city-state of Syracuse on the island of Sicily. Phidias, an astronomer and mathematician, was his father. Aside from that, very little is known about the early life of Archimedes or his family. Some say that he belonged to the nobility of Syracuse, and that his family was in some way related to that of Hiero II, king of Syracuse. Archimedes developed his natural curiosity and penchant for problem-solving as a youth in Syracuse. When he had learned as much as he could from his teachers, Archimedes traveled to Egypt in order to study in Alexandria. Alexandria had, by Archimedes' time, earned a reputation for great learning and scholarship. After his studies in Alexandria, Archimedes returned to Syracuse and pursued a life of thought and invention. Many apocryphal legends record how Archimedes endeared himself to King Hiero II, discovering solutions to problems that vexed the king. Throughout his life, he became one of the most eminent scientists and mathematicians, and brought many contributions to the world. Some of his most important works were Archimedes' Principle, Archimedes' Screw, Hydrostatics, Levers, and Infinitesimals. Archimedes' Principle was one of the most important discoveries by him. This was a method discovered that helps in determining the volume of an object with an irregular shape. The cause of this is the ever-famous story of the Golden Crown.
One day, Archimedes was summoned by the king of Sicily to investigate if he had been cheated by a goldsmith. The king said he had given a goldsmith the exact amount of gold needed to make a crown. However, when the crown was ready, the king suspected that the goldsmith cheated and slipped some silver into the crown, keeping some of the gold for himself. The king asked Archimedes to solve the problem, but there was a catch. He couldn't do any damage to the crown. One day, while taking his bath, Archimedes noticed that the water level in the bathtub rose and overflowed as he immersed himself into the tub. He suddenly realized that how much water was displaced depended on how much of his body was immersed. This discovery excited him so much that he jumped out of the tub and ran through the streets naked, shouting, "Eureka!" which comes from the ancient Greek meaning, "I found it!" What did he find? Well, he found a way to solve the king's problem. You see, Archimedes needed to check the crown's density to see if it was the same as the density of pure gold. Density is a measure of an object's mass divided by its volume. Pure gold is very dense, while silver is less dense. So if there was silver in the crown, it would be less dense than if it were made of pure gold. But no matter what it was made of, the crown would be the same shape, which means the same volume. So if Archimedes could measure the mass of the crown first and then measure its volume, he could find out how dense it was. But it is not easy to measure a crown's volume. It has an irregular shape that's different from a simple box or ball. You can't measure its sides and multiply like you might for other shapes. The solution, Archimedes realized, was to give the crown a bath. By placing it in water and seeing how much water was displaced, he could measure the volume. Then he'd calculate the density of the crown. If the crown was less dense than pure gold, then the goldsmith most definitely cheated the king. When Archimedes went back to the king and did his test, the story says, he found that the goldsmith had indeed cheated the king and slipped some silver in. These days, using the way an object displaces water to measure volume is called Archimedes' principle. The next time you take a bath, you can see Archimedes' principle in action. And maybe you'll have a genius idea of your own.
These are just some of his marvelous inventions. While the inventions of Archimedes were known in the antiquity, but his mathematical writings were little known. Archimedes was a great philosopher. He believed that we can change the world. Even in our own simple ways, we can make a contribution that could move mountains. By just reading and looking at the inventions that Archimedes made for the improvement of the world, we can conclude that he is a mathematical-minded person and a creative one. One of his quotes is, "Mathematics reveals its secrets only to those who approach it with pure love for its own beauty." His explanation for this is that mathematics rewards only those who are interested in it, not only for its rewards, but also for itself. Mathematics is like your daughter, Helena, who suspects every time a suitor appears that he's not really in love with her, but is only interested in her because he wants to be the king's son-in-law. She wants a husband who loves her for her own beauty, wit and charm, and not for the wealth and power he can get by marrying her. Similarly, mathematics reveals its secrets only to those who approach it with pure love for its own beauty. Of course, those who do this are also rewarded with results of practical importance. But if somebody asks at each step, "What can I get out of this?" he will not get far. You remember I told you that Romans would never be really successful in applying mathematics. Well, now you can see why. They are too practical. Some of his famous quotes were, "Love is a theorem that needs to be proved every day," and "Give me but a firm spot on which to stand, and I shall move the earth." Not much information about his personal life is available, but historians believe that he breathed his last air somewhere around 212 BC or 211 BC. This was when Syracuse was conquered by Roman general Marcus Claudius Marcellus, and Archimedes was killed by a Roman soldier. He was working on a mathematical diagram when a soldier approached him saying that the general wanted to meet him, but he refused, saying that he had to finish his work first. This enraged the soldier and killed Archimedes with his sword. Going by Plutarch, it started out like any other love story. He was there. I was there. We were there. Us. The smiles, the texts, good mornings, the good nights, his eyes. Every day, he made me feel special. Even with our fights, he managed to make me smile. In a different way. He paid attention. Every day. But then, I guess he forgot. It wasn't the same. We weren't the same. He forgot. He He forgot how it felt. He forgot how it was with me. Our fights didn't make us strong. It made us fragile. The routine that I got used to every day, the routine of being loved, it just wasn't there anymore. I don't know how or when exactly, but just is. But you know what? Even if you don't hear, even if you don't know, even if you don't care, every day I still do. Every day I still love you.